My talk is not going to be a technical talk at all, just a heads up. It's going to be a pretty chill, kind of like a storytelling session. I didn't know that 15 minutes was so short, so I'll do my very best to compress as much as I can within this session. So my talk is about building a Web3 startup in Malaysia, but I cancelled in Malaysia because when I thought about it, a Web3 startup is kind of global. It applies everywhere. So the things that I'll be sharing here will be applicable wherever you are, anywhere in the world. So a bit of background about myself. My name is Eason. I've been in software for about the past 10 years. I currently have two companies. One's called Elevated and one's called Foresight. I learned about crypto about 8 years ago, but at that point in time, I was still underage. The moment I was 18, set up an exchange account and then just started trading. And only about 5 years ago was when I actually started building within Web3 itself. I'm also a 42 alumni NX staff. So yeah, if you have any questions about that afterwards, feel free to let me know. So one of the biggest questions I get is why did I get into crypto and how did I get in? The story kind of starts when I was in the US to study. So I just set up my bank account. It was the first week of me being there. And me and my friends basically went to a place to buy burgers. And he helped me pay. And I thought, since I have my bank account now, why don't I send you some money? Little did I know, to send him funds, it would take 3 to 5 business days before it reaches his bank account. And if I wanted it to be instant, it would be a $25 wire transfer. So that means that my burger would have costed $35. After that, we discovered Venmo, but still like that moment of like shock, I guess, kind of like sparked something within me to actually do a lot of research about the finance industry, about the state of our banking system and stuff like that. In Malaysia, if you guys don't know, we have free instant transfers, so we can send money to anyone, basically like immediately. But yeah, when I did a lot of research into crypto itself, I realized that actually there is a huge potential within crypto. So the banking industry, like banks give you like 0.1% interest. If you have a fixed deposit, you get like 3 to 4% interest. But in crypto itself, like just having an account and putting your money in to save, and you can withdraw at any time, you get like 8 to 12% interest, sometimes higher, sometimes lower. So when I knew about this, I was like, damn, I gotta get in. So what I did was I took out all of my money from my fixed deposit. I wiped out my entire bank account in Malaysia, sent all of it over to the US, converted it to crypto, bought a bunch of like Bitcoin, ETH and stuff like that. So yeah, I basically all in. Not long after that, COVID happened. And I think COVID was a pretty big event that changed a lot of people's lives. Within that year itself, there was this Black Swan event, basically Black Thursday, where half of the entire crypto market cap got wiped out. I still remember that day because it was just 5 days before my birthday. And then 2 days after that, I got told that I got kicked out of my own dorm. So I stayed in one of the cheapest dorms where 40 people shared 2 toilets for every floor. And basically like they told me that I only had 2 to 3 days before I had to like pack my stuff and leave. Thankfully, I had a friend who has a place. So I moved there, bought my plane tickets, went back home. My parents told me that I had to drop out. So actually I'm a college dropout, but not in a sexy way. And then my brother has a 6-figure credit card debt that I had to pay as well. I basically after that, I just started working full time. And near the end of the year, when everything sort of like boomed back up, it was DeFi summer. I thought I had a lot of money, and then when I checked my account, basically my entire crypto wallet balance got hacked. So if you guys remember, I told you guys that I all in all of my money. So at that point in time, I was basically at zero. I still remember that day where I was just sitting in my kitchen and I opened up my wallet and I saw that everything was empty. For that short moment, I had quite a lot of peace. It was really quiet, and then suddenly it hit me. I should do the most sensible thing that every human should do at this point in time. I decided that I was basically gonna build a startup, right? Because if you think about it, if you have nothing left to lose and you have that one shot of like making it back, it's through a startup, right? Being the next Apple, being the next Google, all of that. So if you don't get that as satire just now, this talk is probably for you, because building a startup is really hard, and there's a lot of lessons that I wish I learned, and things that I wish I knew sooner. So the first tip I would tell everyone is actually not to start a company yet. If you're going to build a startup, especially in crypto, you don't actually need to have an entity. You can deploy on the blockchain, you can monetize, you can do anything you want, all without letting anyone know who you are. I don't know what got into me, but when I first had an idea, I decided that in order to legitimize what I'm doing, I should start a company. Nobody around me has started a company before. None of my friends have done that. So I didn't really have any like reference frame. And I basically started a company a little bit too early because we weren't generating revenue for the first year. And starting a company and maintaining it every year is actually really expensive. And then if you don't have any transactions at all within the company, like it's inactive, you actually get charged a fee as well. And if you want to close down the company, it actually costs even more than to just keep it running. So yeah, if you're going to start a startup, don't start a company until you really need one. The second thing that I would suggest everyone to do is actually to build your own network and also a brand. Now this brand can come in terms of like a personal brand or like your company or your project itself. So I was quite lucky because at that point in time when I decided to start my startup, I attended a lot of events, and I was also kind of like hacking quite a lot. So people sort of knew what I was doing, people sort of knew who I was. I was always present at like every event. So when they knew that I was doing something, there's sort of like this legitimacy or like this trust that they have towards me. But yeah, if you're just starting out, I do suggest that you try to be part of communities, because the thing about Web3 is that it's very community focused, it's very trust focused, and there's a lot of things that you can learn from other people just by going for all of these events. So for example, like communities in Malaysia, we have ETH but you can also go to like events all around the world. We have like DevCon, DevConnect, ETH Singapore, ETH Thailand, ETH Taipei, like there's just basically events everywhere, basically on every single month. The third thing that I would say is very different from a Web2 startup is actually your go-to-market strategy. So how many of you guys here are actually familiar with crypto? Like you've either used it, played with it, just a little? Okay, so in a Web2 startup, it's very different in terms of like monetization strategies, including also like your user acquisition. In Web3, there are many cases where you don't even monetize on your product itself. Now, Web3 or crypto is very permissionless, it's very open. So a lot of things are actually open source. And if you open source your project, people trust it more because they can inspect the code, they can verify. So like there's this saying that says, don't trust, verify. That's very prevalent in crypto. And one of the reasons is that. So if you open source your code, everyone can just copy it. So your strategies of like going to market is going to be very different. And you don't have this vendor lock-in. You basically do well through network effects. Essentially means that a lot of people use your protocol, a lot of people trust you. Yeah, and that is basically your goal. Like your users are the most important thing in this system. And the fourth thing that I would say is try not to cut any corners in terms of legal. So if you're going to start a company, I see a lot of people basically go through this similar arc where when it's time to actually start one, like maybe like you're already generating revenue, a lot of you try to do it yourselves. So maybe you ask a few friends, you chat GPT it, and you try to like cut costs. We've seen people try to chat GPT like terms of service and privacy policies. But trust me, AI is not good at that. And there's a lot of companies out there now that can help you with all of the legal stuff at a fraction of the cost that it would have costed us if we started like 5 years ago. So yeah, there's a saying also, your job is to figure out what you want to do and your legal team is to figure out how. Because there's many times where if you mess up and you set up the wrong entity in a different jurisdiction, then you may have to set up a new one in somewhere else. So yeah, do keep in mind of that. And the fifth thing, or like I would say the most important thing, is SecOps. So if you guys don't know what SecOps is, it's basically just like how you're gonna handle your security. In crypto, if you guys don't know, it's a very high autonomy, very self-custodial environment where basically if you send money to the wrong address, if you send money to the wrong person, if you get hacked, there's no one that you can call. There's no one that you can ask for help. So when I got hacked, and the reason why I told you guys all of that story is because when I had that moment that happened to me, I basically couldn't ask for help. And if I look at that amount of money that I had back then, today it's basically like around $1.25 million, which I could have used for building a startup or like, I don't know, maybe giving myself a better life. But here I am, I'm still grinding in startups and trying to make it. But yeah, there's just so much more about building a startup that I can't possibly like compress within these 15 minutes. There's a lot of things to talk about. For example, like how do you find the right team? How do you do fundraising? What's the best strategy? And also like there's a lot of sexy things about like startup success stories that you hear out there, but there's also like the reality of facing a lot of failures. So like for every yes that I hear from an investor, there's probably like 20 no's that I hear. I wake up earlier than everyone else in my team. I go to sleep really late, and basically there was once that in a month itself, I had to do about 200 calls, and all of them said no to me. So it's a very grueling process, but it will give you a lot of growth if it's the right thing for you. Yeah, so starting a startup isn't easy, but it's definitely fun as long as you can enjoy the process. But yeah, this is just as much as I can shove within 15 minutes. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me anything. These are my socials. I'll still be here after the talk. And yeah, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Eason. We have time for one question. We have 2 minutes.
You said start a business. What do you need to do for starting? If you're in the startup and you want to build something, what do you need to start?
Okay, very good question. If you notice in my slides, I didn't talk anything about tech or the product itself. So actually, like when you're doing a startup, your biggest value is your distribution. So you can have a great idea, you can have the best features in it, but if nobody knows about it or people don't actually use it because you don't have that distribution, it's worth nothing. So I would say the most important thing is actually finding how are you going to distribute to your users, which ties to the go-to-market.
Thank you. Yeah, we don't have much time, so thank you, Eason. Please give him another round of applause.